Alright, hello everyone. Just restarted the video just to make sure everything's running smoothly. We are on site here at the Pennington Biomedical Research Center campus. You can see we have a beautiful lake laid out before us, so I figured I would just take a walk as we went on this Facebook Live together just to share with you all our facility and, of course, try to be a little health conscious and get some steps in while we're doing it. So hopefully we'll have some fun, we'll walk around, and I can just share a little bit about Pennington and my journey with you on my career route to being a dietitian. So let me start with just explaining who I am, kind of where I came from and where I'm at now. So as I mentioned, I am at Pennington Biomedical Research Center. Let me see if I can change this camera real quick. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay. So I can kind of show you just the highlight of our campus and the beautiful lake we have here by us. Really an outstanding research center. So for those of you who are maybe less familiar with Pennington, it's a nutrition and obesity focused research center that's been running for over 30 years now. Originally, it started from a donation from an individual, CB Doc Pennington, and this was someone who had a significant amount of money, but more so had nutrition completely change his life. And he said, you know what I want to do? I want to put up the largest nutrition research center in the United States. So he donated over $125 million back in I think before 1980, right around 1980, which at the time was the largest donation to an institute of higher learning. And they built the walls to this place and just kind of let the researchers come. So really just an outstanding research center. So what do we do here? Some items that you may be more familiar with being dietitians. Sorry, dropping my water bottle. So really important to stay hydrated out here. This is Louisiana in Baton Rouge, and it is hot all the time. So, keeping a water bottle is really important. What I wanted to say was that if you're familiar with the DASH diet, you should be familiar with Pennington Biomedical Research Center. So Pennington was part of the research collaborative that developed, tested, and actually published information on the benefits to the DASH diet. So really just an outstanding research center and resource. We have several different departments that do different areas of research. We have basic science, so if you think just generically about your cell culture sort of work or mechanistic insight, we have clinical research, and we also have epidemiological research. So we really cover the whole gambit of nutrition research, all the way from cell culture through full community epidemiological settings. So how did I end up here and what do I do here? So I am a postdoctoral research fellow. That means I'm essentially a trainee where I'm working under individuals that have had success in research, and they are successful at publishing research, conducting it, and also pulling in funding to support more research. So I am learning and trying to get to that stage myself. Now, how I got here and how I got to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Oh boy, that was a journey. So I was born and raised in Cleveland. I am a Midwest boy at heart. So this was a huge shift for me to come down here to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. But it started with an interest in nutrition. So, boy, back when I was still real young, maybe in junior high, I always played football, but one year came around where I was kind of too heavy to be able to carry the football. And I mean, what fun is football if you don't get to touch it, right? So I had to lose weight, and this was kind of the first time I really thought about and cared about nutrition was when I attempted to lose weight to kind of make weight for the football season. And when I did this, I actually utilized the ketogenic diet. So my dad had an old Dr. Atkins book or something, and we just kind of followed that. And for the first time in my life, I had lost weight, and I was very successful with it, which was outstanding. But a few things just kind of bugged me, you know, like every now and then I'd have these headaches that I didn't have before, but it was only earlier on, and it just made me think, okay, that's really weird that just changing what you're eating is significantly impacting your body. And it sounds obvious to most of us that are in dietetics, but that's not necessarily the case for everyone. So that is how I first got interested in nutrition. So when I went off to college, I went to Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio. Also a very beautiful, stunning campus. If any of you are in the Cleveland area and get a chance to visit, I highly recommend walking around the Case Western campus. It is really filled with outstanding artwork and buildings and architecture that you just don't see anywhere else. So really a beautiful campus there. So that's where I did my undergraduate training in nutrition, following the didactic program for dietetics, with the goal to eventually become a registered dietitian. However, I was getting a little deep into my training, and I was interested in getting into research. And so I had, talked with my supervisors about, okay, hey, how do I try and get into this research world? And at first, I actually wasn't very successful with it. I worked with an individual that did research on nutrition and HIV/AIDS, which was interesting, but it wasn't at the right level for me at the time. I needed a lot of help. I had zero experience, and the individual I was working with, it didn't end up being a successful situation. So, I went back to the drawing board trying to figure out what I want to do with my life, and I started just Googling around, nutrition researchers in the area. And I came across this individual at the Cleveland Clinic. His name was John Kerwin. For those of you interested in health and nutrition research, especially in the realm of metabolism, you will want to look him up. It's Kerwin JP. If you PubMed that, you will find all sorts of outstanding articles on everything from muscle metabolism to diabetes and obesity to insulin signaling mechanisms. Really, really beautiful stuff. He's done some outstanding feeding trials using whole grains and refined grains. Just some really beautiful work in the realm of nutrition and metabolism. So look up John Kerwin on PubMed. Check out his work. It's been outstanding. Anyway, so he was a big dog researcher at the Cleveland Clinic at the time, and I'm a young dietetic student, and I just shoot him an email and I said, hey, I don't really know what I'm doing with my life. I don't have any experience, but I love the work you're doing. What do you think? And then sometimes you just run into individuals that are extremely willing to help you out. And so John said, you know what, come on in, let's chat, let's see what you're interested in, and see where you want to go from there. And that's when I started working in John's lab and really grew to love nutrition research. So that's kind of how I got started in the research world, just kind of volunteering as an undergraduate in John's lab. And it all came from just shooting kind of a cold email to an individual whose research I was interested in. Now, I tell that story for, one main reason, and that's because I love when dietitians get involved in research, but often it seems difficult and you don't really know, okay, how do I get my foot in that door? One great way is to do what I did and just find individuals that are close to you or nearby that do research that you're interested in and say, hey, I'm wondering if you have any openings for student researchers or professional individuals to come work, maybe volunteer in your lab. And that is an outstanding way to start off and get your foot in the door. So I just wanted to share that original story of how I got into the research world, just by finding something I was interested in and asking someone about it. So great tip for all of you young RDs or RD students that want to get into research, or if you're unsure, just try it out. There's no downside to jumping in and trying something. So from there, I went on to the University of Illinois at Chicago to do my PhD in nutrition and kinesiology. Now, this was actually an awesome experience because my love and my passion is all about nutrition, but my mentor there, Dr. Jake Mey, who's now at the University of Michigan. Highly recommend looking him up too if you're interested in muscle metabolism and pathways related to insulin sensitivity. He's done some really great work in the exercise science world. So I ended up working in this lab that was not necessarily directly in line with my personal nutrition research interests, but it helps you learn this whole other world of exercise science, which I now really do love and enjoy. So it's really great to kind of get those different experiences. Now, from being at the University of Illinois Chicago, I also got to enjoy the city of Chicago. Holy smokes. For any of you that are interested in traveling around and seeing cities, yeah, the beach towns are fun, they're great, but boy, Chicago has just about everything and the food is outstanding. As I mentioned, I'm a Midwest boy, I'm a Cleveland boy at heart. I'll always pump up the city of Cleveland, but man, there's something special about Chicago. Highly recommend visiting. So, staying on track with nutrition and chatting about my path and my journey and getting to what I do now. I finished my PhD in nutrition and kinesiology at the University of Illinois Chicago, and I was lucky enough there to work with a dietetic program coordinator, and I did my dietetic internship. So I did my DPD stuff at Case Western, I went and did my PhD in Chicago, and then finished up my dietetic training there. So that was really fun. I did not think I was going to enjoy the clinical rotations. You know, I love research. That's kind of where my heart is. And then I got thrown into this clinical dietetic world, and man, that was really fun too. And I got to meet a whole bunch of extremely qualified and special individuals in dietetics that I just wished we could pull into the research world. So this is another time where I'm going to sit and say, hey, for you individuals that are maybe dietitians already, you're not necessarily an RD to be, but you're going through and you're being the outstanding clinical dietitians that you are, look for areas to get involved with research. We need more dietitians. We need to have that dietetic insight in the research world, getting on publications, sharing information that you'd think intuitively other people know and other people would care about, but they just don't the same way that dietitians do. So if you are a dietitian, please look for individuals that do research in your area. Get in touch with me. Maybe I know somebody out there. But find a way to get involved in research. It's something that as dietitians we need to continually improve upon the profession and try to elevate it to higher and higher levels. And getting involved in research and getting on publications is one way to do that, not just for yourself and your own CV and your interests, but for the greater dietetic profession in general. This is increasingly important because of how young a profession dietitians are, right? We're just over 100 years old in terms of being a profession. Other professional groups have had a jump start on us, right? There are other groups like, just say MDs, being in research, getting involved, doing their own research. We need more dietitians to kind of follow that path and say, hey, we have an expertise, we can conduct research, and we can help move the field forward. So another area that I'm particularly passionate about. Let me do a quick check on the time here. Sorry for the delay. Okay, we're about halfway through. So I guess I should start talking about what I actually do now, right? So my areas of research interest, they're a little widespread. So I mentioned I'm a postdoctoral research fellow, again, a researcher in training, if you will. This allows me to kind of test the waters in a lot of different areas that I'm interested in to try and find kind of a specialty area or where I want my future career to go. So right now I kind of have these three main routes that I'm highly interested in that I want to share with you all. One involves the role of ketogenesis in metabolism. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this because of the recent popularity of the ketogenic diet, right? So we know this kind of induces a situation of ketogenesis in the body where the body utilizes fats and ketones for energy instead of carbohydrates, which you're no longer getting from your diet. But ketogenesis does some interesting things in the liver, and we know that ketones themselves, recent research has shown they act as signaling molecules and can interact with receptors and create downstream signaling pathways that we didn't really know about before. So it's a really exciting time, not just because the lay interest in the ketogenic diet has really spurred up recently, but also because in the research world, there is a lot of new and growing evidence related to the benefits of something like the ketogenic diet, or understanding more of the physiology of ketogenesis. So that's one of my primary research interests right now, is just better defining that in different disease states and in metabolism. Another area is skeletal muscle protein synthesis. So I had mentioned early on how, let me sit down here and try and stabilize this camera. Boy, okay. Yeah, as I mentioned, it is warm out here, so pardon the heat and the need to sit down, but yeah, time to take a little break. As I was saying, another area I'm interested in is skeletal muscle protein synthesis. I had mentioned earlier how, one of my first experiences in nutrition was going on a diet and trying to lose weight for football. So naturally, as I continued playing sports through high school, I also played Division III football at Case Western. I was always interested in getting bigger, getting stronger, for both athletic and aesthetic purposes. So muscle growth and muscle protein synthesis was always an interest for me, and how nutrition could play a role in that. So some items that we're interested in is looking at how different nutrients, specifically nutrients that are different between a refined grain and a whole grain diet, could impact skeletal muscle protein synthesis. There's been some outstanding work in terms of protein synthesis and the role of macronutrients and protein on skeletal muscle protein turnover, and those are kind of the large scale, bigger effects that are getting really well defined now. Several research groups are just doing outstanding kind of informing us on the role of protein and amino acids in muscle growth. So what we're interested in is on kind of a smaller scale level. We're interested in to see if phytonutrients can actually have an impact on skeletal muscle protein synthesis as well. So right now we're doing some really cool experiments where we're growing muscle cells up in a petri dish. We're putting different nutrients on them. We certainly have all your major components like your amino acids, your glucose, but then we're adding phytonutrients as well, which I'm sure many of you know as dietitians, we don't really quantify and we don't really count in foods, but they are present in a lot of different foods, including our fruits, our vegetables, our whole grains, and we're trying to see if there's any impact mechanistically at the cellular level in terms of protein synthesis, and also utilizing feeding studies to see if we can determine if there's any impact there as well. So that's kind of my second area of interest. Now the third area I want to chat about utilizes this really cool technique called the breath biopsy. And I'm going to take a quick look at my time again real briefly. All right, we got a few minutes here. So the breath biopsy, boy, this is a very unique research area that has really just come around in the past maybe 5 or so years. So I was at the Cleveland Clinic where I actually started my postdoctoral fellowship before coming down here to Pennington in Louisiana. And I started working with these individuals in our pulmonary department. They are, outstanding researchers and outstanding clinicians. They're both MDs. I highly recommend looking them up if you just want to get into this pulmonary world, especially in metabolism and unique diseases. So this would be Dr. Reed DeWeek and Gustavo Haresi at the Cleveland Clinic. They're at our Pulmonary Research Institute. Just two extremely talented individuals. So I started working with them, and they do this unique data collection procedure called the breath biopsy. Now it's not as intricate as it sounds. Actually, what you're doing is you're just collecting the breath of individuals. But in someone's breath, there's actually thousands of little molecules, and they change pretty rapidly. If you think of drawing someone's blood and how different biochemicals in the blood can be between two individuals, the breath is kind of similar. It's highly reactive to items like nutrition, and it changes quite rapidly. So they have this unique procedure, and what we're doing is we have a team of dietitians at the Cleveland Clinic. As I mentioned, I am very passionate about keeping dietitians in research. we have a team of dietitians that are kind of looking at these breath biopsies that have been collected and trying to find ways that we could maybe integrate the breath biopsy to better understand someone's nutritional status. So really, really interesting to think that, maybe one day we could have a situation where someone's breathing into a handheld device, and that could teach us something about their nutrition or their nutritional risk. So just a very unique area of research interest that I'm certainly passionate about, and that I think could really be an up and coming area for the future. So those are kind of my three main topics of interest, right? The role of ketogenesis in metabolism, which has been well researched, but I think could be better defined. Also looking at the role of phytonutrients in skeletal muscle protein synthesis. And then finally, this really unique method of the breath biopsy in research. So that's what I do. Those are my research interests. We've chatted quite a bit about, myself thus far. I would love for any of you that have comments or questions to throw them in. I do have kind of the chat open live, so if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I can just kind of go up here on a soapbox and chat about some more things that I'm passionate about or that I like about dietetics. So we've talked about how young RDs especially, I think it's really important to follow your passions, and for those of you that are interested, get involved in research. I think that's a really great area to go. Beyond that, I think as dietitians, we also need to be more active on social media. So for those of you that are here, I'm sure if you're on watching Facebook Live, you're at least moderately familiar with the social media world and being present. But there's a big issue on social media when it comes to health and wellness information. And I'm sure many of you have seen this, right? There's individuals on there that are, promoting sales or whatnot, and they're spewing information that utilize advertisement tactics and just give people information so that they can make a profit. And it's not always the best health and nutrition information. So we do have individuals that are active on social media that just say, hey, you know what? Something you can do today is try and eat 5 fruits and vegetables today. That's a great goal. That will be a good move for you going forward for your health. It's not necessarily flashy. It's certainly not selling anything to individuals, but it's important information to spread. And more of us need to be on social media and be active just to increase the presence of health professionals, just sharing good information. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but for any of you that are dietitians or are nutrition experts, get on social media. Be interactive with each other, but more importantly, just spam the internet with good, truthful health information. That's a really good, positive thing, and an impact that we can have as dietetic professionals is just sharing the basic information that we know to everyone else. Because quite honestly, a lot of times the items we know seem really intuitive, right? It seems obvious to think that, hey, we should be understanding you should eat more fruits and vegetables. You should probably be, eating less fast food. But that's not as intuitive as you think. So just sharing that sort of information is really important. So let's see, looks like we have a question pop up here. Functional medical nutrition therapy is becoming more pronounced in the profession. Do you think researchers should take a closer look at its precepts? So functional medical nutrition therapy. Dustin, that's a great question, and maybe I just need to better clarify my own understanding of the definitions, but I will make a statement on dietetic professionals in the, not necessarily in the clinical medical nutrition therapy world, but dietetic professionals kind of having their own nutrition consultation business, and I do think that is very important. So just as an individual, and I think almost every RD should probably do this at this point, is just have an LLC so you can get compensated for talking to people about nutrition. It's really simple to do these days. It protects you legally, and it allows you to share your nutrition information in a way that also benefits yourself financially. So I do think it's very important for individuals to be able to profit from all this great information that we get to share with other people. So that's, I guess, one of my other recommendations, I would say, for individuals that are dietetic professionals, even if you're primarily a clinic dietitian or primarily a research dietitian, whatever you do, I would highly recommend having your own LLC, having your own business, just so that you're able to kind of collect money for the great information that we do get to share with everybody. Let's see, we've got a few more minutes here. So I guess just in closing, hopefully you all had a great time so far. If you do want to get in touch with me in any way, I'm available by email and on Twitter. The best email to reach me at is just firstname.lastname at pbrc.edu. So that's jacob.mey, M-E-Y, at PBRC, Pennington Biomedical Research Center.edu. Reach out to me if you have any questions on being a dietitian, getting involved in research. I am more than happy to kind of point you in the right direction, if I can. Hopefully I can. And then beyond that, as I mentioned, being active on social media, my favorite realm is Twitter. Boy, you get to have a whole bunch of fun on there. Number one, don't take it too seriously. Number two, follow me. My Twitter account is @CakeNutrition. I do have a lot of fun there. Oh, Leah, this is a great question. Where did the @CakeNutrition come from? So, as I had mentioned earlier on, I had to lose weight to kind of, play football. I was always a larger child, and Jake and Cake rhyme really, really well. So, a couple close friend or two every now and then would call me Cake. And it just kind of fit great because there's this, really great kind of, yin-yang with cake and nutrition, where it doesn't seem like people would want to know about the nutrition of something like cake, or it doesn't seem like you could fit cake into a healthy diet when, as dietitians, we all know, life is about enjoying food and not necessarily just planning out your macronutrients and moving forward and trying to reach a certain body composition. So I love the Cake Nutrition name. It's one of those things that just fit really well. It's the name of my LLC also, so just something fun. So this was an absolute blast. Thank you for those of you that came on here, and we're just kind of chatting and being interactive. Another question. You're active on social media and sometimes you get some haters. Wow. Yeah, sometimes is a bit of an understatement, right? Just don't take the haters on social media seriously. Sometimes I interact and respond to them, but that's not for any reason other than to expand the conversation and get more people to see it. So a lot of times I look at it just like you would look at a business opportunity. If a really highly interactive social media individual is coming at you, I like to respond, I like to interact, because I think that lets more people see your stuff. You do got to be a little careful with making sure you're professionally appropriate, right? You don't want to be going on there dropping F-bombs and all sorts of stuff on Twitter. But it is good to be interactive, and you want to show people that you're real, right? So sometimes when you're behind a computer screen, it's a little difficult to understand the person or get into their personality, and having kind of a free-flowing social media perspective, I think is something that is beneficial. I don't know. It's the route I've gone. Whether or not that's the most appropriate or most beneficial, I'm not sure. That's my opinion. So this was an absolute blast. We've reached the 12:30 time point. So if there's any other questions, type them in real quick. Otherwise, thank you all so much. I'll give you one last look at our beautiful lake and Pennington Biomedical Research Center. I absolutely love this facility. There is nowhere else that I'd rather be doing nutrition research right now. So I'm in a great place, and I thank you all for letting me share that with you. I appreciate the thanks in the comments, and I look forward to interacting with you all in the future. Have a great one.